Hello, and welcome back to WGBH's Drama After Dark, our live drama after show, where tonight we are talking about the third episode in Season 9 of Call The Midwife. I am joined, as always, by co-host Andrea Willanen, again, in our own homes. And tonight we have a very special guest, Tina Cassidy. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Woo! We're so delighted that you would join us in our sort of like, join us moment.
Join us in the internet.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how's everybody doing while we start off the show?
Good. Going good.
We're doing fine. Everyone's healthy.
Exactly.
That's what we like to hear.
It's really important. And I know we're going to come back later in the show to talk more with you, Tina, and find out a little bit more about who you are and what your specialties are. But Jackie, I think you know how eager I am to do the speed recap this week.
I know, you can't, you're chomping at the bit. The proverbial bit.
I'm ready.
Wait.
This was a busy show. Okay.
Yeah, little timer here.
Okay.
All right, Andrea, get ready.
I'm ready.
And go!
Phyllis meets two adorable kids, Rahul and Jalal, and things are a little blurry on their vax records, so she heads to their house to follow up. Despite abundant love, there is something very wrong with their mother. And after much investigating, we discover that she has a fistula. Ow! Luckily, Phyllis and Dr. Turner are determined to get her fixed up, and they do. A happy ending! Yes! Meanwhile, Trixie throws a fashion show and scandalizes the neighborhood. Lucille helps a real creep of a lady give birth in a stuck elevator. Cyril and Monica Joan have their first best buddy TV date, and Cyril almost proposes? I hope. I was so close.
The problem with this season is that, so for those of you at home who haven't seen our previous seasons of Drama After Dark, we always have to cram so much in the recaps that we started speaking at a normal pace.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, what has been your downfall tonight.
That has been my downfall. The last few weeks I spoke fast and had half the timer left. And this week I was like, I'm just going to expand it. We can do this. So my first fail at the speed recap. But
wow. Put it on the board in this important date.
Here, yeah. Going on my calendar, the day of my disappointment.
Well, let's talk about some of those moments that you mentioned tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I think we couldn't let this episode go by without talking about Trixie and her incredible fashion show outfit. So, what are our thoughts, folks?
Well, let's start with Tina, because she and I were talking about this right as we were winding up for the show. Trixie's short shorts, maybe?
Yeah, and I thought, well, maybe we should call them hot pants. I don't know if they were yet called hot pants, but yeah, they were so short that people kind of couldn't believe what they were seeing. I remember wearing short shorts to my aunt's wedding back in the day. I was a very little girl, and I thought that they were fabulous. They also were velvet.
Oh my God.
Onto the show as well.
I am incredibly jealous.
Yeah.
They were pretty cool.
Everybody needs velvet short shorts in their life, I think.
Yes, exactly.
At least once.
At least once.
Now, did these incredible shorts garner the same sort of reaction that Trixie got in this episode, where some of the fashion show attendees were so scandalized they had to sort of walk on out of there?
No, I think by the time fashion trickles down to a 3-year-old, that is just cute, you know?
Exactly. What's scandalous on Trixie is adorable on a 3-year-old.
Yes, exactly.
Speaking of which, one of my other favorite fashion show moments was May and, oh my gosh, I am blanking on their other daughter's name. Angela, that's right. May and Angela in their dresses made out of velveteen. So cute, but Dr. Turner wearing the matching tie is really what, like, just right through the heart on me. That man is such a good dad, and it was really cute to see how excited he was.
There you go. There's the fresh and fruity palette.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just so cute, and they love the kids so much. Like, it takes a lot to put on a tie like that. Or, I mean, honestly, Shayla's dress was also kind of over the top.
Yeah. But they were going to match, darn it. Family. That's the family that matches at a fashion show together, you know?
Yeah, for sure. That's that old idiom, for sure.
Exactly.
Now, speaking of adorable children, can we spare a moment to talk about the Muhammad kids? Rahul and Jalal.
Yes.
Sweet angel children who we love.
Yeah, I love them so much because they were such good like good to each other. One of my favorite things was I wasn't sure. I don't remember which one was which, and that's very bad, and I'm sorry, but I don't feel like we really differentiated in the episode which one was Rahul and which one was Jalal. But one of them kept whispering to the one who looked older, and that was like one of my favorite sibling things. And also, coming from a family of immigrants, it's also it was such a moment that I related to in like having my grandmother tell me something to say to people, and I'd be like, she wants to know how much it is. Like that was such the thing. Like, yeah, we do have a vaccine. He says we have a vaccine. Like it was such a cute moment between them, and I really loved how it showed how close their family was too, despite the difficulties they were having.
Definitely. I love a nice family that's pretty happy. And while obviously like not a spoiler because you just watched the episode, but there are some serious issues happening in that family. It's so great to see by the end of it that they've all sort of like, I mean, Dad has gotten his stuff together. We're not going to curse, even though we're on the internet only. Yes. I was about as mad as Phyllis was at that guy, so it was nice to see him get it together and do his kids again.
Exactly.
Now, another moment that we loved that we can't not talk about is Cyril and Monica Joan, which I guess their friendship name is Cyril. I'll go with that.
Yeah.
Watching TV together and having like a delightful kind of friend date night. Yeah.
I need more of the two of them being buddies since he's now forgiven her for throwing him in hot water with Lucille from day one.
I don't know what would happen if you ever... It's bad enough if you are late to a date, A. B, your date is hanging out with like an adult who isn't you. But then C, that person is a nun.
That's always good. Always good for morale around there, I think. Tina, did you have any favorite moments from this episode that stood out to you?
Well, I mean, I'm a childbirth geek, having written a book on the history of childbirth. And so I was diagnosing the woman's, Mrs. Muhammad's challenges before the doctor did. So I was like, yes, I was right. It's a fistula.
Yes.
So that's, I know, not a, a fun thing to talk about, but it's actually still a significant problem in many developing countries, and women have to deal with this. It's easily fixed if women have access to proper care.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was happy for the happy ending for her.
Yeah.
And, that I think that was really nice to see.
It was, but you brought something up good, something that we do want to talk about up, which is your book. So Tina Cassidy, you are not just our, I believe, head of marketing at WGBH.
Yeah, I'm the chief marketing officer.
Chief marketing officer.
Yeah.
Awesome. But you also have written this incredible book, which is why we're having you on the show today. Can you tell us a little bit more?
and it's not something I talk about every day, but you all found out that I talk on the history of childbirth, and you came asking. Yes, my book is called Birth: The Surprising History of How We Are Born.
Awesome.
And it came out about 15 years ago, after I had my son. And I just wanted to try to put modern childbirth in historical and cultural context. So the book is really about how every generation has its own way of having a baby, if you will, and yet it's the same ancient physiological process.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
And midwives favor prominently in the book.
Yes, of course. And we know that you've been watching the series, and you actually live tweeted the first season, which was, I think, one of the ways we found out.
Yes.
When we dug in.
Yes, back when blogging and tweeting were both new.
Yes. So how did, I think it's interesting coming from that background where it's such a rich history that you dug into there. How do you feel the show reflects that history? Do you think it's, accurate? What do you think?
It's highly accurate from a medical perspective and from a midwifery ethos perspective. I think what's so wonderful about the show, though, is that it's about humanity. It's something that everyone can relate to, whether you're familiar with the medical terminology or midwifery practices or not. It's really about life and death. and all of those dramatic moments in between.
Awesome.
Now, one question that I had while watching the show is, so obviously watching Call the Midwife, there's a pretty stark difference between what we're seeing on the show and what I think most people think of as the experience of birth nowadays in the United States. I think it's a much more hospital-focused situation, and I think not everyone even knows that midwives are still doing their thing. So can you talk a little bit about how that changed, that we went from what we're seeing on Call the Midwife to how it is
Sure.
now?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you think about it, since the beginning of time, midwives were a thing. They were the thing. They were who attended births. They weren't called midwives necessarily until really the Middle Ages. It's an Old English term that means with woman. But in every culture around the world throughout time, with the very few exceptions, women have always been attended by other women. It was usually a mother, an aunt, someone else from the village or the tribe. This was a woman who just had experience with birth. Often it was sort of historical knowledge that was passed down amongst generations of women. They became more professionalized, sort of trained and certified, if you will, in recent centuries. But medical doctors who were only ever male in the very beginning decided that they should take over childbirth. And that's what they essentially tried to do. And as a result of that, in addition to highly technological painkillers that became available around the time of Queen Victoria, birth moved from the home to the hospital for those who could afford it. It was really seen as a luxury and the place where you went if you wanted pain relief. I think that the world wars, First and Second World Wars, really expedited that process as midwives became less and less available. And in America, geographically, midwifery became more extinct because of our geographical spread and the professionalization of the medical system here.
That's
and
interesting.
It's kind of a shame because the knowledge that midwives have and have always had throughout history is really important. And what's fascinating is that in this moment of COVID-19, many women are looking for ways to perhaps have babies at home or outside of a hospital setting, which feels really dangerous right now. And some midwives are reporting, a spike in interest. So there are all kinds of midwives. There are home birth midwives. There are certified nurse midwives who assist childbirth in the hospital. But yes, midwives have made a comeback in the last 20 years or so, basically come back from the brink of extinction. And they are a very safe way of having a baby.
It's interesting because I know one of the things that I noticed early on watching this show is how the midwives have women in so many different positions to give birth, whereas opposed to the hospital, there's, they're getting into that a lot more these days, but for such a long time it was you could only give birth laying on your back, and if that didn't work, it was a C-section. So I think it's interesting to see that here.
Yes, well, historically, women never gave birth on their backs. There would be no reason to. It's incredibly uncomfortable, and it works against you physiologically.
Yeah,
It also works against gravity. So the only reason why it happens now in a hospital is because often a woman is connected to, whether it's some sort of a drip or a painkiller or something, and you can't walk. Or also it's to sort of monitor the birth much more heavily, but it's not an ideal position. I mean, you can look at ethnographic photographs or drawings, artwork from all over the world, and women would really never be on their back at all.
Yeah, that's so fascinating. And I feel like it's been so great to have that window into that world that is not as familiar to us.
Yes, and it came up in the episode tonight where Connie, the odious woman, was complaining about being in the hospital. I chuckled at her line where she said, usually I can just walk from the living room to the bedroom, and now I have to sit in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
But there is some truth to that. It's like suddenly you're in a hospital, and why do you have to behave differently just because you're there?
Exactly. Interesting. Well, we're so glad to have you and your expertise on the show today for this.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course.
This is great. I mean, not only do you have subject matter expertise from writing your book, but you also have children, which Andrea and I do not. So
Yes.
it's good to have an actual mom on the show.
Somebody with experience that Jackie and I do not yet have. So,
Yes.
So Jackie, is it time for our call?
Well, hold that thought, because we actually have a couple of comments from the social phone.
Oh,
Ta-da-ta-da.
yay.
Bringing it up. So as the folks who have seen episodes before know, we love your questions and comments. So if you are tuning in on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, put those comments and questions in the comment section or reply to the tweet. And Zach, our trusty social producer, will get them and he will send them to me and I will read them back to you. It's very weird, but that's how we do it. So without further ado, we've got some comments from Facebook. Bernice is tuning in from Lumberton, North Carolina. That's amazing.
Woo.
Hi, Bernice.
Hey, Bernice.
We also have former Drama After Dark guest and friend of the show, Jen Dederick, who says, Trixie's outfit was spectacular. I loved when the scandalized ladies started walking out.
We expect you to make that outfit and come sit in next week, Jen.
Yeah, that's your challenge. You've got
That's your
leave
challenge.
and nowhere to go. So. And Sarah on Facebook is joining from Maryland. Hi, Sarah. And she has a comment as well. Can we talk about how adorable Angela and May were in the fashion show?
Yes.
We absolutely can. So cute.
Angela and
So
May are
great.
always adorable, so that goes without saying.
Oh, we've got another comment from North Carolina. That's so cool.
Oh, hey.
Susan says, from near the Triangle area, where we have a marvelous, long-established women's birth and wellness center.
Oh, fantastic. That's amazing.
So cool.
We'll have to look that up after this episode. Check it out.
Oh, awesome. And we have actually 2 comments specifically for you, Tina. Deborah says, thank you for sharing your expertise.
Yay. Thank you, Deborah.
And Sarah asks, can you explain the difference between a midwife and a doula? Which is a great question that I actually don't know the answer to myself.
Yes. The meaning behind doula is basically slave. So it's a person who it dates back to ancient Egypt. And it's this idea that the person would be with the mother, supporting the mother in whatever she needed throughout either pregnancy, birth, or the postpartum period. A midwife is specifically there to attend the birth, which is not to say that a midwife can't do pregnancy visits and also help support the mother postpartum. But the doula is really more about support, whereas the midwife is there to catch the baby, if you will.
Fascinating.
I will just add one other fun fact on doulas. Many scientific studies have shown that if you have a doula, that having that emotional support and sometimes also the physical support can reduce the sense of pain during labor and can actually make it move along more quickly.
Fascinating. That's so cool.
Mm-hmm. So think about your mammal brain, right? And all of the hormones that are happening during birth. If you feel comfortable and supported, then things tend to go much more smoothly.
It's true. And they say all those exactly. And they say all those good chemicals are coming out during that time period too that want to help you. So
oxytocin, yes.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Well, those are great questions, so keep them coming. And we also want to mention that we have a Twitter poll up for what we're about to do. So if you have thoughts, please weigh in on Twitter and we will check back and see how you guys voted. But now it is time for the hot take debate.
Steaming hot this week too.
Yeah, we didn't pull our punches this week.
We did not.
And the debate question is, do we think that Lucille should have forgiven that, how did we describe it earlier, particularly odious
mom, Connie.
Connie. I think we could go ahead and say that she was acting racist for sure, which was not great. What do we think, gang? Would we forgive her? Do we think Lucille should have?
Well, I think it's really interesting that Lucille does forgive her. I mean, this is the Easter episode, right? And it's really quite a bit about forgiveness, and I thought that was sweet. I wouldn't expect anything less of Lucille. I do think it's been interesting to see how this program has brought race into the scripts more recently, and I think that's a really good thing. I mean, it's just, it's always startling to see it happen on the screen like that. but I think the characters handle it well. And I love the conversation that, Lucille has on her date about it too, where he tells her how well he thinks that she handled it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. I think overall the BBC has been doing a really good job with adding the dimension of race into their programming lately.
Mm-hmm.
I shouldn't just say the BBC. I should say British television, because also we are seeing some really interesting components of that in World on Fire, and we saw some really interesting components in that in Sanditon as well.
Definitely.
They're adding in some racial elements that aren't always comfortable, but are worth exploring. And I really appreciate that they're doing that. That being said, I am also going to agree with you about the forgiveness. Though I am white presenting, I am Latino, and that always adds an interesting dynamic in society, in discussing things with people. And I've definitely had racial slurs spoken around me before, and I've had microaggressions directed towards me. And sometimes, you realize that for the greater good, for lack of a better term, for the greater needs of the situation, sometimes it's better to forgive and try to help people understand than it is to, completely disagree with the moment and fight back in ways that aren't necessarily helpful.
I think that's a really good point, but
Uh-oh.
for the sake of the debate,
For the sake of the debate.
And also because I know it's Easter and forgiveness is generally considered a good thing, but I, as a part angry Irish person, I'm going to stereotypes here, my family can hold a grudge like nobody's business, and I think I probably would hold a grudge here. I don't know. There's just something about the fact that I don't care how much pain you're in. It's not okay to have it come out in that very specific way. If she was just being rude to everyone, it would be different to me. But I think she let herself off the hook, and I kind of wish that Lucille had not let her get away with that.
Well, I thought it was really interesting in the scene where Lucille starts to tell her, you have to pick up your mess,
Yes.
And I thought, well, where is this going to go? And good for her for telling her to pick up her mess, and good for her for being human and being angry and sort of reacting to that. I think, though, she was so professional once she saw that Connie was in labor and that she was the midwife who, needed to step in. And, I think it was very human and also really illuminating about the profession of midwifery, which, really is about being there for the woman in labor. I don't know if I could be that person that
exactly.
Lucille was, but, it was an amazing example.
And I think you're getting at the heart of Lucille in a way here, is she is nothing if not professional, and she's almost always the bigger person in these situations that we've seen. And that's always so impressive of her character, is that no matter what is going down, what she's having to deal with, she's always going to step in and help. And that's such an important key to her character here.
That's true. I guess my hope for her as this season progresses is that she doesn't let that stop her from doing what she needs to do for herself and what's right for her. I think we're starting to get maybe an inkling of that in this episode, where she and Cyril really want to spend time together, but they're both so busy with their various important commitments that they're having trouble making that happen. And I was so sure that when he said there's something important I want to talk about, that it was going to be a proposal, I was ready for it, and then it didn't happen, which was a big bummer for me, because I love this relationship. But I hope that she, throughout the rest of the season, will stand up for herself when she needs to, and step away from work when she needs to, like she did at the end of this episode when she said to Sister Julia, and look, I get it, it's important to go do this, but I can't wait to be back at Nanadas and in the community.
Yeah. So now I'm curious, Jackie, what does our poll look like? Have we gotten any responses?
Well, let's take a look, shall we?
I'm
going to see if Zach's put the link in here. Not yet. Okay, I'm popping over to Twitter, guys. It's happening live. It's happening live.
I always like to see the poll responses because then I can declare myself a winner.
It was so funny last week because I should say this. We had a really weird response on the Twitter poll that turned out to be exactly like the opposite of what ended up happening later on. I think I was winning by a lot, and then Andrea flipped it.
Flip-flopped. That's what happens when I debate.
So actually, this kind of works with the exact ratio of our arguments tonight. 70% say yes, forgiveness, thumbs up. 30% say no, thumbs down.
Okay.
So that actually is really interesting. I'm curious to see how that changes over time.
Over the course of time. Yeah, that's really cool.
But,
it's always interesting to see what the audience thinks too, because we have such a mixed audience on a lot of these shows that it's always interesting to get their take.
And while I'm in the social phone, I will add we have a couple more comments and questions.
Fabulous.
Melissa, who's joined us before, says, yes, it's necessary and educational to address those issues. And hi from Chicago. I didn't know you were in Chicago. Hi.
Yay.
Thanks for watching. Yeah, this is great. So keep voting. We'll check in again at the end of the episode to see if that's changed at all. But yeah, it's great to get your feedback, folks.
And I will just say, like, Lucille says that she forgives her, but you don't know if she really does. And
it's true.
I give her credit for saying that she forgave her, right?
Yes,
that's a
exactly.
Really good point.
That is a good point. And also for wanting to forgive her, even if you don't. Sometimes, again, Lucille always trying to be the bigger, better person.
Totally. I think it's time for our next segment, folks. And that segment is Costume Corner!
Yes! A favorite.
A favorite always, because I think one of the best parts of period dramas is always the clothes.
It is. And how could we not have a costume corner on the week of the fashion show?
Of course, Project Runway Poplar.
Exactly.
New York, Paris, Poplar.
Exactly. It's not London.
It is fun to get to see them wearing some of these like really outlandish outfits because so often they're wearing their uniforms, which are pretty stylish, I will say.
Yes.
But aren't the most exciting. So it's kind of fun to see those bright pops of orange and raspberry and
well, I loved the what did they call it? The fresh and fruity palette. But I also love the fact that while lots of clothes from that era looked like they were made from drapes, these actually were.
Yes, exactly. They had a very upholstery vibe, but in fact,
it's so funny too because I don't want to give the game away, but clothing made of drapes will feature again in this season of Call the Midwife.
Oh,
so
boy.
That's a fun little look ahead for all of you.
You've binged ahead, haven't you?
A little bit.
I feel betrayed personally, but
I'm sorry, Andrea, I had to.
I have to say, this brought two things to mind: the clothing made of drapes from Angela and May's little outfits. One, it brought to mind, of course, Scarlett O'Hara, because that is my new favorite. That was my favorite outfit made of drapes until today. You can't not love that beautiful bottle green dress she makes out of her mother's portieres.
It's a stunning outfit.
It is. But second, it brought to mind when I was a kid, my grandmother actually made me, I requested a princess dress one Halloween, and my grandmother, as I mentioned in previous seasons, was a seamstress, and she made me a dress out of one of her neighbors' curtains that they were throwing away. It was like a white underdress with a big poofy tulle blue dress on top of it that was curtains. And I was only slightly older than May and Angela when this happened. So I think it's a tradition for children to have curtain dresses.
Did you know at the time that they were curtains?
I didn't know until I was older. I feel like I probably would have felt betrayed as a small princess child. You know, it's hard to be a princess when you know that your clothing is made out of curtains.
Yes.
Well, speaking of small princess children, Eddie, can we roll that adorable picture of the two little girls in their great dresses? I think we have a clip of that.
Yes,
there it
is. Beautiful.
Oh my God. I didn't notice that Angela has a little do they both have little purses?
Yes.
Yes. It was so cute. And also how poofy the dresses are. It's perfect. Everything about those dresses is amazing. Everything you want.
The headbands are really interesting too.
Yes. Yeah, they look almost like they're twisted to go up and around. It's really cool.
If it's like padded, wrapped, I don't know, but I love
Yes.
them and I kind of want one to wear.
Another quarantine project for you, Jackie.
There it is. Make your own drape outfit.
Exactly.
That's going to be the new trending challenge on TikTok, I'm sure of it.
And I know we don't have a photo for it, but I do have to say my favorite outfit out of the fashion show this week was Val's dress, the one that they transitioned and added the sleeves to.
Yep.
Just it was very 60s vibe. It felt very mod. The colors were in the scheme of the fashion show, but everything, it looked great on her. Like, it just, overall, that was my top dress from the fashion show this week. If I had to give my number one outfit, that would be it.
It was a pretty cool outfit, but from the fashion show, I think we got to talk about Trixie's outfit. I think we do have a picture of that. Can we pop that up for a second? And Tina, you have a fashion writing background. Can you talk a little bit about what we're seeing here?
Yeah, I was a fashion writer for a number of years, but I think that, this outfit is pretty wild. It's hot pants, I guess we're going to call them, with a tunic over it, but it's all super fitted. And the way it has a little skirted front to almost look like a skirt, you could see how it would be so scandalous until she turned around and you realized that she was wearing shorts. But the hat is horrific. Let's just call it what it is. I mean, she looks like a cardinal.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the bird. I'm talking about the religious
order.
clergy.
Yeah.
That's exactly what that hat is. Oh,
although she could look like a bird too. I don't know. I think it just does not work.
For me, it made me think of like a hat you would be required to use to cover your beehive hairdo. That's like what I thought of.
Yeah. It just looks to me like if a high school in the 60s was doing a production of Dr. Zhivago and they decided to set it in their own time, that's what that hat is to me, which is so weird and specific. But that's what I picture.
Yes.
And it is heinous, Tina, I agree. But I will say I would wear the buns out of this outfit to brunch if brunch were a thing that we were legally allowed to do right now.
I would absolutely wear this outfit today. Yes.
Yeah.
That's a good sign. It's timeless.
It's timeless.
Look at that. Gotta trust Trixie. Now we have two other outfits we wanted to quickly talk about, and those are Lucille's date outfits. She's rocking some cool looks this episode.
Yeah. I love the color. So bright, so pretty.
Exactly. And that first one, I believe it was your favorite, Jackie, the mustard yellow, like twin set, I think you would call it. Yes, that's one.
The one. If I could bribe the costume department of Call The Midwife to send that to me, not that it would fit me because I'm, not actress size, I don't think, but I would. Oh, I love that outfit. It's so cute.
It's very Jacqueline Kennedy.
Yes.
It is. Yes. That was the definite.
Well, and there's this great little kick pleat, so when she has to get into that sidecar, she can climb into the sidecar. She's got movement.
Yeah.
It's not like so restrictive as some of the other outfits.
Yes, and it's the perfect outfit for riding in a sidecar as well. And then her second date outfit, which I think we might also have an image of, which was the navy blue, yes, with the flowers over it. First of all, I loved the shoulders on that. They came to like a little bit of a point when you saw it up close. The neckline was great. And then she accessorized it so well with the yellow lucite necklace. I think it was probably Bakelite for the time. And then the earrings with it. Just overall, it was great. Bright colors are fantastic on her. And I thought that one worked really well because it sort of matched her personality, where she's a very vibrant character, but she also holds back a lot too. So I thought it was interesting that it was the bright pops of color on the muted background. It was very, very fun.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to think about how the costumes are sort of reflecting the role of the character, and I think that here, they're really trying to say that she's coming into her own flower, if you will.
Yes.
And I also just love how there were so many florals in the costumes in this episode, and they were talking about spring and the city, and all of that.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Yeah, it was a beautiful mention of that when you spend so much time inside in a show as well. So
yes, maybe that's why we liked it so much.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh God,
exactly.
right. Well, we're going to move on to our final segment of the night, which is Most Valuable Midwife.
Yay!
A new segment for this show. Now, I think it's not going to be a big surprise to the audience who we've decided is the most valuable midwife tonight, because of course it's got to be Lucille. We've got elevator delivery. Plus, she dealt with that really panicked first-time mom.
Yes.
There's a lot going on, and she's handling it very well.
With aplomb.
Yes.
Yeah, she handled it all very well. I think that the fact that she knew that she didn't have a lot of time in the elevator and was smart enough to ask for supplies and so forth, and was very calm when her little vial dropped to the floor. You know, I think that that was a pretty special moment.
There was a lot to be said for Lucille in this episode overall. She did amazing work, was very calm, handled it excellently. So she is definitely the most valuable midwife, but I do want to put in a bid for Phyllis as the runner-up of most valuable midwife. Dealing with the family where the woman had the fistula and had these symptoms that were honestly terrifying for me, since I was the only one in this group who didn't recognize what it was immediately.
There's no reason why you should.
Yeah.
It was scary, and I think Phyllis's determination to get to the heart of this, and in her very Phyllis way, button everything up and fix everything, was really endearing, as Phyllis tends to be. I think it was admirable. So I want to just say that she should be our runner-up this week.
I like it. I'm with you on that. So we're probably going to do a most valuable midwife from here on out, but I'm glad that our first one is Lucille, because she really nailed it this week.
She did. So should we take a final look at the comments of the day, Jackie?
I think we should, because we've got quite a few coming in. I'm seeing a lot of notifications here. So we have a few. This is to start with a little discussion of Lucille, since we're on that topic. Stacy on Facebook says, yes, Lucille handled it very professionally. The mother was stressed and lashing out. Fair. Good point. We also have a favorite moment from Kate, who says, when the husband came to realize his wife was ill and that he was wrong. Yes. I love that moment too.
A man who can admit he's wrong.
Something that we all love. And then we have a lot of great costume corner commentary, which is very difficult to say, but pretty fun. So Sarah says, Lucille always looks amazing in yellow, and then heart eyes emoji, yellow heart emoji, and sunflower emoji, and then hashtag favorite color.
Very nice.
Which is a great point. And then Deborah says, daffodil and white, Jackie Kennedy classy. And clothing made from drapes reminds me of Gone with the Wind. So you're not alone, Andrea. Deborah also had the same thought. Ooh, contention coming in on Facebook. Jen says, I would say Phyllis is MVM. She went above and beyond. Well.
Well, we gave her a runner-up, so.
We still give her points. And then I'm going to look for what I think is the comment of the day. Please hold.
All right.
I'm going to give this one to at Cobraquist. I'm not really sure how to pronounce it because it's a Twitter handle, but that's what we're going to do. Who appears to be a man named Noah in real life, says, the medical situations that Call the Midwife depicts really are evidence of why this show is so special and has been running for 9 seasons. Can't say better than that. I think that kind of sums it up, huh?
That does. And I think, that is the perfect way to end our show today. I really appreciate you coming on, Tina, with your level of expertise. We couldn't have had a better first guest for this season. Thank you
so much. It was so fun.
Of course. Oh, we're so glad to hear that. And Jackie and I will be back next week with another special guest to discuss episode 4 of Call the Midwife. So we will see you then, and have a great week, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.